Hello, friends. Welcome to the Wake Up with Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Julie Boyer, and we're doing a very special event for the month of November. Every day, I'm sharing with you a different way to practice gratitude, as November is traditionally known as the month of gratitude. As we spend these last 10 days together, I encourage you to look back on what you've learned about gratitude this month and ask yourself, which of these gratitude practices do I want to incorporate into my life going forward? I do have a favor to ask. If you've been following along over the past few weeks and have gained something from these episodes, would you take a quick moment and give the show a rating? You can give the podcast a 5-star rating through the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone. Or if you're using Spotify, all you have to do is click right on the front screen of the podcast and give it a rating there as well. Thanks so much for taking time to rate the podcast. Now let's start today's gratitude episode. Now that Thanksgiving is over, what do we do? How do we extend our gratitude practices beyond the Thanksgiving dinner table? This is my life's work, is helping people to practice gratitude every day and to stay in that energy of gratitude throughout the year and not just in the month of November. I recommend checking out the episode I posted a few days ago with Sharon Saraga Walters, where she shares her Gratisize 365 method on how you can practice gratitude on a daily basis with a few simple exercises. Here are some other ways that we can continue to have that gratitude feeling all year long. One practice that my family has is taking a moment to give thanks before we eat. We hold hands around the table and say, "Thank you for this gift of the food that we are about to eat." It's a simple pause in gratitude to remember that having food on our plates is a gift and something to be grateful for. Then we go around and ask each other to share something we're grateful for that happened that day. This isn't a practice that we only do on Thanksgiving. It's something my family has adopted to do whenever we sit down as a family to eat together. We aim to do this at least 2 or 3 times a week. It helps us stay connected through gratitude and have conversations on the things that matter to us. If I'm eating alone, I like to pause for a moment and think about where the food that I'm eating came from. I can think about the farmers that grew the food, or the distributors that got the food to the grocery store, or even the people working at the grocery store that stocked the shelves or checked out my order when I finished grocery shopping. It's a reminder that it takes a lot to get a meal on a plate, and there are a lot of ways that we can be thankful for how a meal ends up in front of us. There's a great book by A.J. Jacobs called Thanks 1,000, where he traces all the people that are connected to making his favorite daily cup of coffee. It's a wonderful experience of gratitude, and I'm not recommending that we travel to a different country to see where the food came from, as AJ did in his book. He traveled to the coffee producers to thank them in person, which I think is absolutely amazing. However, that's not realistic for most of us. But the idea of the book is that there is so much we take for granted that shows up on our plates or what we're drinking every day, and we just don't pay attention to the number of steps and people that are involved in just a simple cup of coffee. These practices around the table are common during the Thanksgiving holiday season, but we forget about them the rest of the year. Do you think that you might be able to include some of these gratitude practices at your next mealtime? Perhaps your family gets together for a Sunday dinner. Wouldn't it be great to add some of these gratitude practices in to when you are gathering with family and friends outside of the Thanksgiving holiday? We share our prayer of gratitude even when we have guests over. I think it's okay to share our gratitude practices with others and maybe inspire them to try these practices at home. We're getting to the end of our month of gratitude, friends, and I want to say thank you for listening in and thank you for being here. It's wonderful that we can share these gratitude practices together. I hope that you've found some gratitude practices that work for you and that you'll be able to continue after these 30 days are done. This concludes today's gratitude practice. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you take a moment to implement something you've learned today. I have a favor to ask. Would you mind rating and reviewing this podcast? It doesn't matter which podcast app you're using, every rating helps other people to find this podcast and help them make their decision when choosing which podcast to listen to. I appreciate your support, friends, and I'm excited. I appreciate your support, friends, and thanks so much for taking the time to listen and rating the podcast. I'll be back tomorrow with another way to practice gratitude.